If the tingling in your feet comes and goes, especially at night, there's a good chance you've been ignoring it because it doesn't hurt. But tingling isn't harmless and it's not random. As a matter of fact, it's very rarely the final symptom. In many cases, it's the warning sign people wish that they had taken seriously earlier.
Tingling is usually the phase where the nerves are still alive. They're still communicating, but they are under stress. And what you do during this stage often determines whether symptoms calm down or quietly progress into numbness, burning, or even pain. In this video, we're going to explain what tingling actually means, why it shows up the way it does, how to think about it correctly, and what you can do about it before it becomes something that's much harder to reverse.
Quick context, if this is your first time here, we're the neuropathy doctors, and we work with people all around the world who are trying to understand and change their neuropathy.
Everything we're sharing today comes directly from the patterns that we see with our clients. And one of the earliest patterns we see, in fact, long before numbness or pain, is tingling. Tingling is at its root an abnormal nerve sensation. The clinical term is paresthesia, but what matters isn't the word, it's the message. In a healthy nerve, signals travel cleanly from your feet up through the lower peripheral nervous system to the brain. You feel pressure, temperature, texture, nothing unusual. But with tingling, the nerve is still firing, but the signal is distorted. So instead of silence or clarity, you get noise. That's why people describe tingling as pins and needles or buzzing, electrical sensations, or creepy crawly feeling that they can't quite ignore. And unlike when your arm falls asleep, this sensation doesn't disappear when you move it around. It shows up repeatedly, often daily, very often worse at night. That persistence is the key difference between the two.
Here's one of the most important distinctions people miss. Numbness is a loss of signal. Tingling is a distorted signal. When a nerve is completely damaged, sensation drops out completely. But before that happens, the nerve usually goes through a phase where it misfires. That misfiring is tingling. Clinically, this is why tingling is often considered an early warning sign. The nerves are being stressed, but they're not damaged. And this is also why tingling can feel more widespread than numbness. It's not confined to one toe or one small patch. It often affects larger areas of the foot, including the top of the foot, the ankles, and even into the lower legs. That's the nervous system struggling to regulate communication with your brain, not shutting down entirely. And if tingling is something you're dealing with right now and you're wondering what you can actually do about it, we put together a free training called the 90-Day Reset Method. That training walks you through the steps that we use to help people improve and reverse their neuropathy, not just understand it, but to be able to take action on it. You can find the link in the description. Go ahead and grab it. It's absolutely free.
Now let's talk about why tingling starts in the first place. The first major cause of tingling is structural. The nerves in the feet don't start in your feet. They originate in the spine and they travel all the way down into the legs and feet. When the pelvis and the lower spine aren't moving or functioning well together, those nerves can become irritated long before sensation is lost. You may have noticed that certain positions, postures, or prolonged standing can cause tingling to become worse. That's because the nerve is being mechanically stressed. This also explains why some people experience tingling without any numbness at all. The nerve is alive, it's just not happy. And it's why focusing only on the feet often fails to resolve tingling. You're working at the end of the line, not where the signal begins.
We've worked with many clients who told us that their tingling would fluctuate depending on how long they stood, how long they sat or moved throughout the day. They'd say things like, I noticed it was worse after sitting or standing in one place, or it was better when I walk around. There's a clear distinction to tingling relative to movement. But once that stress was addressed, their symptoms started changing pretty significantly. As a matter of fact, listen to what our client Wendy shared about the tingling that she was experiencing.
One of the biggest improvements I've had is the burning and tingling just isn't there anymore. I couldn't even, if I were to sit in a recliner and put my feet up, I couldn't do it very long. It was just really uncomfortable. And I noticed I'd go to bed and I'd stretch out my feet. That neuropathy pain, needles burning was there. And I don't have that anymore. So that's the biggest thing.
But it's not unique to Wendy. Far from it. One of the most common things we hear is that tingling is calm during the day, but has a tendency to flare up in the evenings or when people are trying to sleep. They'll often tell us it's worse after dinner, or I notice it more at night, or after I have some wine or something sweet. Too often, though, people don't recognize these patterns. But when we're able to recognize it, we can help them do something about it. And when the nervous system stops being constantly irritated, you can get results like our clients Denise and Mark did.
It had hit me in the middle of the night with severe tingling and numbness to the point it woke me up in tears. I didn't know what was going on. I'd never even heard of neuropathy.
How
Okay.
have you seen that change in the 90 days?
My tingling, again, very, very seldom. Tingling is probably 90% improved.
Yeah, the tingling I experienced was mainly in my lower legs. It felt like I had compression socks on up to my knees, and that improves when I get up in the morning and move around. That goes away.
Fantastic. So percentage of improvement overall in just tingling.
Just tingling in my lower legs is down 80%.
The second major cause of tingling is metabolic, especially blood sugar. Sugar is toxic to nerves. Even in people who aren't diagnosed as diabetic, unstable blood sugar can inflame nerve tissue and disrupt how that nerve fires. This is why so many people notice tingling is worse at night or after a dessert or after alcohol. It's not a coincidence. This is chemistry. Clinically, this is one of the most well-documented contributors to peripheral nerve dysfunction.
Now, if tingling is your only symptom right now, that's actually important information. It often means that fewer systems are involved, and it means that the nerve still has resilience. You're still ahead of this thing. But tingling shouldn't be dismissed just because it's not painful yet. When tingling is combined with numbness, burning, cramping, or pain, like in Denise and Wendy's case, that tells us that multiple contributors are starting to stack up. But the earlier you listen, the sooner you act, the more options you typically have.
Here's the good news. Tingling can absolutely improve, substantially, if not completely resolved. But it doesn't fade away on its own. It responds to the right inputs applied consistently while the nerve still has the ability to recover. If you're ready to understand what you can actually do about your tingling, your neuropathy, we put all of that together in a free how-to training called the 90-Day Reset Method. And you can access it absolutely free by using the link in the description. You know, ignoring tingling doesn't make it harmless. Understanding it and addressing it early gives you leverage.
Tingling isn't random, and it's not meaningless. It's your nervous system communicating that something isn't working the way that it should. Not in a dramatic way, but in a very specific one. It's asking for attention, not panic, not fear, understanding. When you know how to listen to that signal, tingling stops being confusing or frustrating. It becomes useful information, something that helps you make better decisions about what to do next instead of guessing or waiting and hoping that it just goes away.
And that's why continuing to learn matters. If this is all new to you, watch some of our other videos. Subscribe to the channel, because the more clearly you understand what your body is telling you, the more control you have over the outcome. Clarity changes how you respond, and how you respond changes what's possible. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time.